I have a very important question that I think we're going to spill the tea with.
Cool. Let's do it.
So the question is, what were you most afraid of as a child? And how had that fear evolved over time?
Nice. I'll try and frame the question a little bit while I think of something. Why is it important of things we are scared of when we were kids? What makes me think of is like Batman, how he had that terrible accident that happened to him when he fell in the well and he saw the bats everywhere, but it came to be kind of like a spiritual calling for him. So, I'm trying to think of what I was scared of as a kid. I found myself to be pretty, I think, rambunctious and not very fearful of anything, which, may or may not have served me well. But if I had to put my finger on it, you know, something that like would have shaped me like it might have shaped Batman, I think it was heights. There was a time when I was hiking in the mountains with my dad, and I had my dog with me, and I was coming down the hill and going a little bit too fast, and my dog clipped me. And I started skidding down the hill, and basically I was getting close to like kind of an edge. In my head, it was like the Grand Canyon, but I'm sure it was probably just like maybe a 3 or 4 foot rock that kind of spilled off. And I was stopped by a yucca plant, which is not necessarily the softest of shrubs. So I got all caught up and, raspberries on the knees and the whole thing. And I got spooked, and I spooked on that same trip. The next day, we were on kind of this canyon. It wasn't the Grand Canyon. And again, is probably about 10 feet deep, but to me, I was very intimidated. My dad was like, come over here and check this out. He wanted to, dangle his legs off and look at it. And I just got really spooked. You know, that feeling of heights?
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
get it.
That it set it in motion for me. And so, I started crying as a kid, and my dad came back later and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I kind of forced you to go over that edge. I realized you're kind of spooked." So that kind of set it off. Now, then I had kind of like I would say like a short career with rock climbing and mountain climbing, and we would go to like Moab, and we would do these different like areas and kind of free climb a little bit, just like little edges and like scrambling over rocks. It didn't seem to bother me anymore, and it wasn't until my kids were toddlers, probably about the same age that I fell down that hill with my dog, that we went to this zoo in Colorado up off Highway 72. And it's not really a zoo, it's like a wild animal sanctuary. So, do you ever watch that show Tiger King right at the beginning of the pandemic with about the guy that had the tigers?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar. But tell me about it. Like, we can watch
So
it like for your story.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous show about this Floridian that, like, made a whole career about, like, selling baby tigers, and anyway, he ended up going to jail, but he had, like, 25 tigers, so a lot of this guy's tigers are at this place, and they don't just have tigers, but they got bears, and they got wolves, and they've got hyenas, and they have mountain lions. They have all these animals, lots of them, like 30 tigers. And I think the tigers have to be put in separate areas because they're not like a communal species. They don't like to snuggle, you know. But there's areas where the bears are cool together. So there might be like the big area of bears, and there's like 35 brown bears, giant bears.
Well,
So there's this cool wild animal sanctuary. And what they did to like raise money, because they take care of the animals, of course, it's really expensive to feed them and stuff, is they get people to, pay admission to come look at the animals, and it supports the whole thing. So what they did is it's over this vast area of acreage, and they built like a walkway that's probably like 20, 30 feet up above. And it has like a clear handrail on the sides. So you can go up above, the animals and take a look down on them. Well, I'm halfway through this rail, probably a half a mile, we get to the bears, and my kids were running up against the like glass walkway and like, "Oh, Daddy, look at the bears." And I freaked out. I absolutely was paralyzed with panic to the point where I had to like take a knee, like in the middle. And, my wife's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I don't think I can get back." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Get the kids, get out of here right now. I don't think I can make it." So I gathered
Sounds like
myself
an
and held
awful
their little hands.
experience.
Yeah, I held their little hands and, like, without not crushing them, but, like, so tight. I was like, "No, we gotta go, kids," and they're upset, so I'm just trying to hold it together. So, after that point, now I can't even go near heights, you know? So, I'm trying to bring that back to my career or business insights in some manner. I don't think it's there. I don't think there's anything relate in my professional career just except the sheer panic I have at even the thought of heights. What about you? Are you scared of heights? So let's talk about podcasts for a second. You're listening to one, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. But have you ever thought about being a guest on a podcast? Like, seriously, imagine sharing your story and your expertise and your business all on shows where your ideal customers are already listening. Kitcaster connects founders and entrepreneurs, professionals, with podcasts that actually make sense for their brand. No pitching, no guessing. You just have great conversations on great shows. And the best part, Kitcaster handles everything. You just show up and bring your A game, Kitcaster does the rest. This is hands down one of the easiest ways to grow your personal brand and just create a wellspring of content for short video, for blog posts, for speaking engagements, for whatever. So if you've been thinking, yeah, I really need to step up my content game, go to kitcaster.com and apply today. Now back to the show.
A little bit. Like, I thought I was afraid of heights, but after hearing your story, I don't think I am.
It's totally debilitating thing. And, it's something that my kids will tease me a little bit, but they know like I'm a pretty like happy-go-lucky dad, I think. Well, I'm lucky too that my kids are just kind of sweethearts and we just have a good time. But if they want to get me, they'll be like, "Hey, dad, blah blah blah," and like try and get me to go somewhere. I can't even go to a window in a tall building like that. That's too much. There was we
Okay.
went to we went to the Nuggets game, and there's a certain escalator that goes from the ground level to the third level. We had big nosebleed seats, and it's just like an escalator in the middle of space. And I freaked out on that thing. I had to sit down and like close my eyes like this.
That can be so hard.
Oh, yeah. It was
Yeah, it
brutal.
doesn't
I
sound
don't
like fun,
know.
right? I'm sorry
I
to
don't know.
go through that.
Yeah, I wish there was an inspirational story of overcoming the fear and going anyway, but no, it haunts me to this day. It haunts me to this day. I can't go near anything high. Just thinking
But
about it right
sometimes it's
now is
like
making
that.
my hair stand up.
But like sometimes life's like that. Like, I think sometimes we believe every obstacle or every experience that we get to experience, we need to get something out of it. And sometimes just simply don't. Like, you just get to live through it and that's it. You get to survive it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like kind of a stoic thing, right? Like you just have to endure. I mean, maybe that is the parallel in business is that, it gets really hard sometimes. Maybe everyone can relate to that in their professional career, particularly if you're a founder and investor. I know you can because it gets hard out here. And oftentimes you're like, well, there's no real solution. It's like you ask yourself, can you endure this? And if the answer is yes, then it's like, then endure it. That's And that's me
Exactly.
anytime there's anything high. Now, the odd thing is that, like, I don't have a problem with planes, and I can look out the window with planes, you know?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
I don't know. I kinda
But
resolve every time I get on a plane that, like, "You know what? I've had a nice life. This plane goes down, I've been very lucky. I've been a very lucky man." So, I just resign
I think
myself to
exactly the
die.
same. Yeah, like every time I'm on a plane, I'm like that. Like, if I got like if the plane goes down, I've been a happy person. This would be a nice end. At least I'm happy to go where I'm going. If this was my end, I'm pleased it was like this.
This is the analogy. So you're working on your business, you're working on your professional career. First, resolve to die. Just know that you've had a good life and it might kill you. Okay. And then second, it's gonna be so painful and scary, you're just gonna have to endure it the whole time. Those are the takeaways.
Yeah, they're
Well,
big takeaways.
it do be like that sometimes though, you know? It really does. If you're someone who's always trying to level up, whether it's your health, your career, or just life in general, you have to check out the Lift newsletter. This is my personal newsletter where I share stories, insights, and practical tips that are all about creating a lift in your life. We're talking about how to crush it in business, how to stay sharp mentally and physically, and find a little balance along the way. Every edition is packed with quick reads, actionable advice, and a little humor along the way. It's all designed to give you value up front and never waste your time. So head over to my website, it's ryanestes.info, click the newsletter, and subscribe today. It's free, it's fun, and who knows, maybe this is the lift you've been looking for. ryanestes.info. Now let's get back to the podcast.